Good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar, Logic Models, a Framework for a Project. Welcoming you to the webinar this afternoon, and would like to call your attention to the Handouts tab on your control panel. Under that Handouts tab, you will find one handout. It is the note pages for today's presentation. So please feel free to download them. You will get a better view of the slides looking at your computer screen as opposed to looking at the note pages. Some of our pictures are a little busy, so it would be easier for you to see them on the screen. Just wanted to give you that heads up. So let's go ahead and get started. Today's webinar is sponsored by the Eastern Region Training and Technical Assistance Center, a resource of the Administration for Native Americans. And I am your presenter, Rondelle Clay. I'm the Regional Director for the Eastern Region Training and Technical Assistance Center, Dakota woman from and a citizen of the Siston-Wampanoag on the Lake Traverse Reservation. Our learning objectives for today. We're going to learn what a logic model is, what its purpose is, the elements of a logic model, and how to construct one. Before we get started, let's take a look at the terminology. The word logic has many definitions. With respect to logic models and the community and change, the word logic refers to the logic of how things work. And we have an example there on the screen for you. So logic in this sense today we're using refers to the relationship between the elements and between the element and the whole. We all have the capacity to see patterns in complex situations. We see systems at work, find within them a logic, a set of rules or relationships that governs the behavior. Working alone, we can usually see the logic of a simple system, but by working in teams persistently over time, if necessary, there is hardly any system, past or present, whose logic can't be figured out. Logic models have been utilized for years. They provide funders with an illustrative representation of a project and its key elements, including the outcomes the project is intended to achieve. A logic model keeps participants in the effort moving in the same direction by providing a common language and a point of reference. More than an observer's tool, logic models become part of the work itself. They energize and rally support for an initiative by declaring precisely what you're trying to do and accomplish and how. A logic model is a series of if-then statements. So let's take a look at those if-then statements and their relationship to one another. So down at the bottom we have the major elements, or five of the elements that are used consistently in logic models. And up above, it gives you the if-then relationship. So if you have certain resources that you need to operate your project, then you can use them to accomplish your planned activities. And if you accomplish your planned activities, then you will hopefully deliver the amount of product or service you intended. If you accomplish your outputs or the services or develop the services and products that you say that you're going to do, then participants will benefit in certain ways. And if these benefits are achieved, then certain changes within your organization or your community or systems might occur under specified conditions. So those are the basic if-then relationships that all logic models point out. This is what helps funders get a good overview of what your project is about, usually in one page. So what's the purpose of a logic model? A logic model is a versatile tool that can support many management activities, such as project planning. The logic model is a valuable tool for project planning. The logic model structure helps you think through your project strategy to help clarify where you are and where you want to be. It helps with project design. Developing a logic model can be used to reflect overall project design, a roadmap describing the sequence of related activities connecting to the need for your project with desired results. It can also help with project management because it connects the dots. Between resources, activities, and outcomes, a logic model can be the basis for developing a more detailed management plan. And as most of you know, the detailed management plan in A&A speak is an objective work plan. Using data collection and an evaluation plan, the logic model helps you track and monitor operations to better manage results. It can serve as the foundation for creating budgets and work plans. It also serves as a powerful communication tool. It can show stakeholders at a glance what a project is doing or its activities and what it is achieving or its outcomes, emphasizing the link between the two. A logic model can help with consensus building. Developing a logic model builds common understanding and promotes buy-in among both internal and external stakeholders about what a project is, how it's going to work, and what is trying to be achieved. A sound logic model demonstrates to funders, such as private foundations, such as the U.S. government, a U.S. government agency, that you have purposefully identified what your project will do, what it hopes to achieve, and what resources you'll need to accomplish your work. It can also help structure and streamline grant writing. To put a logic model into context for A&A purposes, a logic model helps you get the overall framework of your project worked out so that you can successfully build a comprehensive objective work plan. So let's take a look at the elements of a logic model. Now, I will tell you there are several elements of a logic model. What we have on this slide are typically found in most logic models. So they're somewhat standard. First, you're going to have your problem statement. We all know what your problem statement is. A&A has been asking for a problem statement from its applicants for forever and a decade. You are going to provide a clear and concise statement about the problem that you are trying to address with your project. And then you want to look at the goal, your project goal. It's the desired long-term result of the project. What do you hope to accomplish by the end of your project? Then you have inputs. Those are your resources dedicated to or to be consumed by the project. Then you have your activities. Those are the what the project is going to do, the processes as well as the participants with the inputs or your resources to attain your desired outcomes. These are critical action steps needed to produce project outputs or desired results. A logic model does not include the number activities included in an OWP, which is why I emphasize the word critical. Most funders request a one-page logic model. So you stick to the critical, the higher level project activities in order to achieve your desired outcomes. Next, you have your outputs. Outputs are the products that are made in your project activities. Things such as curriculum and manuals. Then you have your outcomes. Outcomes are the benefits for the participants both during and after project activities. They're the changes that you want to occur with your project. There are some supplemental elements that, depending on the agency or the funder or the project, that you may want to include. Measurement and evaluation. This is the systematic collection and use of information about activities, characteristics, and outcomes of the project, which is used to make judgments, improve effectiveness, add to knowledge, and or inform decisions about the project. Evaluation helps to improve projects and also to be accountable for the results. Assumptions. Why will your approach be effective? Clearly explain to funders how and why you feel the strategies that you have chosen will work in your community. They can be because of your experience working with a target community or population. They could be based on trend data and statistics. They could be based on peer review publications or literature research. And then finally, external factors. These are the influences on the project and are often circumstances beyond the control of the project, but they can have an effect on the project's success. Factors can include political environment, policies, media, background, experience of participants, economic situation, weather, and demographic makeup. An example might be new government administration for the tribe in year 2 could impact the implementation of the project in year 2. So let's take a look at a logic model. I have picked a couple of logic models for you to look at. This one uses the terminology that we have already covered, inputs, activities, outputs, and if you will notice, this particular logic model breaks the outcomes down into immediate, intermediate, and long-term. Okay, and the way and they list them: the immediate first, the intermediate second, and the long-term last. I know it's kind of hard to read. I'm sorry for that. We tried to make it as large as we could. Unfortunately, the examples that are out there are in small type, so they can fit as much information in one page as possible. Typical logic models are use a table and flowchart formats to present the project factors, activities, results to illustrate a project's dimension. Most use text and arrows or a graphic representation of project ideas. Like I said, there are many, many logic model formats. And if you go on to Google and you do a Google search on logic models, there will be a section that shows you all different kinds of images of what logic models look like. So there is no one particular format. But the names of the key elements, while the names of the key elements vary across different logic models, their underlying concepts are basically the same. So don't get caught up on names. And here is an example. This is from HUD. So it is an agency, government agency prescribed format for the Indian Community Development Block Grant. And if you notice, this particular logic model has many more components to it than what we just covered. It throws in measurement for reporting tools and evaluation. It puts in benchmarks. And the format is, is a bit different from what you saw previously. And you'll see ones that are much more complex than even this one if you do a little research on the internet. Many Native American communities are comfortable with a relational, a cyclical approach to project design where change is depicted as cyclical and focused on restoring balance. This is not incompatible with a linear type logic model since the concepts described are similar. For example, as we go through time, aspects of the mind, body, spirit, and context are in flux. Both linear logic models and relational worldviews contribute to the depiction of human behavior with the idea of balance and well-being. With both, the question of how to restore balance is more relevant than why something happened to cause imbalance. Before we move on to how to make one, here is a template that we suggest to come up with a logic model. Have your basic information, as we mentioned before. You start off with your problem statement, your project goal. You list your resources or inputs. You list your key crucial activities, your outputs or the products that you will produce, your outcomes, the changes that are going to occur. There are a few things that should be considered before you start developing your logic model, such as what stakeholders should be involved. The development of a logic model offers an opportunity to engage your project stakeholders in a discussion about the project. Stakeholders might include project staff, the clients or service recipients, partners, funders, board or council members, community representatives, volunteers, other departments. Their perspectives can enrich your project logic model by clarifying expectations for the project. Also, determining what the scope of the logic model is. Identify a time frame for the logic model you're about to create. It will help you frame short, intermediate, or long-term outcomes and make better decisions about the resources and activities you're going to need. Many groups design logic models for funding or project cycle on a fiscal year or a specific time frame which they believe they can achieve some meaningful results. In ANA's case, bringing this into context for the Administration for Native Americans, your scope is determined by the funding opportunity that you are seeking. If you go after an Esther Martinez initiative, for example, you are going to have a 36-month time frame, or 3 years. But if you go after a social and economic development opportunity, then it's a little dicier. You have to figure out, based on what you are trying to accomplish, whether it's going to take you 12 months, 24 months, or a full 36 months. Another tip to take care of before you start your logic model is to carefully select the terminology you will use when developing the logic model. This step makes communication among stakeholders and the staff much, much easier. It keeps people thinking in the same direction and avoids miscommunication. So get your terminology set. As we discussed earlier, words have many definitions. And there are many words that can be used that mean the same thing. So you need to pick and choose what is appropriate for the project. And finally, identify your the long-range goal you are focusing the project to work towards. The long-range goal should be important to the community to be served. It may be based on your organizational mission, on a comprehensive or strategic plan, or even set forth by your governing board. Determining the long-range goal will help you focus your planning and development of your project. Okay, we've taken care of all the things that need to happen pre-development of the logic model. So let's get into the nitty-gritty. There is a practical tip that I'd like to give you. If you think back to the template that I gave you, had you look at a few minutes ago, you're going to write your problem statement first. Once you have your problem statement designed, then you are going to set your project goal. And once your project goal is set, you are going to work backwards, starting with the outcomes. What do you want to accomplish? What outputs or products are you going to create? What activities do you need in order to create those outputs and accomplish your outcomes? And in order to implement the overall project, what resources do you need? And we're going to break this down into steps for you in a few minutes. So in addition to my little tip, there are some questions that you want to consider. We have 7 of them listed here. So it's the issue you want to impact, what's causing the issue, what change do you want to occur, what behaviors need to change, both behaviors within the community as well as behaviors of individuals. What knowledge, skills, procedures must change in order to successfully address the issue? How can we promote and implement these changes, and what resources are needed to accomplish the task? Okay, so let's break it down into steps. Step number 1. The first step in creating a logic model is to clearly articulate the problem your work is trying to solve. Your problem statement should briefly explain what needs to change. Why is there a need for an intervention? Your problem statement should answer the question, what problem are we working to solve? Include the who, what, why, when, and where, and how in your statement. But remember, we're not asking for a paragraph. We're asking for a statement. Next, what are you trying to accomplish? The answer to this question is the solution to your problem statement and will serve as your goal. Goals serve as a frame for all elements of a logic model to follow. They reflect organizational priorities and help you steer a clear direction for future action. Goals should include the intended results in general terms of the project or initiative. Specify the target population you intend to serve in your goal. It's tempting to have more than one goal, but we recommend that you articulate one clear solution to the problem statement. Other goals of your projects may be long-term outcomes rather than goals. Phrase your goal in terms of the change you want to achieve over the life of your project, rather than a summary of the services you are going to provide. Focus on change. Don't make a statement so broad and general that it provides no guidance for your project. Okay, so now we have the problem. We have our goal statement. Step 2, we determine the outcomes. Outcomes in many logic model examples show them divided into 3 types: short or immediate, intermediate, or long-term. For our purposes, we discuss outcomes in a general fashion. Outcomes express the results that your project intends to achieve if implemented as planned. Outcomes are the changes that occur or the difference that is made for individuals or groups or communities during or after your project. Outcomes answer the question, what difference does the project make? What does success look like? They reflect the core achievements that you hope to for your project. Outcomes should represent the results or impacts that occur because of project activities and services. They should be within the scope of the project's control or sphere of reasonable influence, as well as the time frame that you have chosen for your logic model. Be generally accepted as valid by various stakeholders of the project. Be phrased in terms of change, or changes in learning, or changes in action, changes in condition. Be sure to clarify who or what will experience the intended changes. Be measurable. Make it work to translate them into measurable indicators. For outcomes that are difficult to phrase as measurable, you can address the way you will determine that the outcome has been achieved. Step 4, outputs. Outputs are the measurable, tangible, and direct products or results of project activities. They lead to the desired outcomes or benefits for participants, families, community, but are not themselves the changes you expect the project will produce. They do help you assess how well you are implementing your project. Whenever possible, express outputs in terms of size, scope of service, or products delivered or produced by the project. They frequently include quantities to reflect the existence of something new. Step 4. List the key, there we go. List the key, and This says key activities, but it's really more critical activities. Look back to the outputs and the outcomes list that you have developed in the 2 previous steps and determine the crucial activities that need to occur in order to achieve those outputs and outcomes. Activities are the actions that are needed to implement your project. What you will do with project resources in order to achieve project outcomes and ultimately your goal. Common activities are developing products such as promotional material or curriculum, providing services such as education or training or counseling or screening, engaging in policy advocacy over issues or conducting public testimony or developing public manuals. Building infrastructure, strengthening governance and or management structures, relationships, or capacity. We have a few tips for activities for you. You can use the activities you identify here as an outline for a work plan. Use the activities as headings in a more comprehensive work plan that includes staff assignments and timeframes. Keep in mind that more comprehensive work plan for ANA terms is your objective work plan. Providing a complete list of activities helps people who are not familiar with your project understand what it really takes to implement it, but getting too specific can overwhelm them. And finally, step 5, you're going to determine your inputs. Inputs are resources for the project. Identify the available resources within your community for the project. This helps you determine the extent to which you will be able to implement the project and achieve your intended goals and outcomes. List the resources that you currently have to support the project. If you intend to raise additional resources for the project during this project time frame, account for them under activities. An exception, if you're building your logic model as a part of a proposal or to justify a funding request, list all the resources you will need for a successful project, whether you have them on hand at that moment or you need to get them. You may wish to separate your resources out under headings need and have. Common types of resources include human resources, full and part-time staff, consultants, pro bono staff services, and volunteers. Financial resources, restricted grants, operating budget, other monetary resources needed. Space, your office space, or the other kinds of facilities you may need in order to successfully implement your project. Technology, computer hardware and software, communications infrastructure, websites, email, those sort of things. Other equipment, well, and it's really not equipment unless it's over $5,000, but other materials you're going to need, such as office machinery, printers, copiers, or equipment that are specific to the project, backhoes, tractors, those kinds of things. Materials, other types of materials could be office supplies, project materials, insurance, mileage, fuel, vehicle maintenance, all kinds of things. Be specific about these resources. But do not spend a lot of time developing a detailed list of all the actual or anticipated project expenditures. This is just to help do that at a later time. Remember to include resources such as technology, materials, space. These are often overlooked in the project planning stage and cause trouble later. You can use your resource list as a foundation for developing your budget. Do you receive in-kind contributions? List those among your resources. And we, of course, know with A&A projects, in-kind contributions are used for match or your non-federal share. Okay, so now that we have gone through the 5 steps of a logic model and you guys are going, oh my God, let me break this down into a very, very simple example. Rondelle wants to have a beach vacation. She wants to have this beach vacation. That is her goal because she has lost touch with her 2 granddaughters. They're older now. They've got busy lives. They don't live close. So I don't get to see them as often, especially during the school year. So I'm going to develop my logic model, and I am going to start with my outcomes. So what are my outcomes? I want to bond, shore up my bond with my granddaughters. I also want the 3 of us to be able to relax and enjoy ourselves. And at the end of the vacation, I want us to be rejuvenated and ready to hit work and school again. Then we'll look at our activities. We're going to drive to the beach, check into a hotel, spend time at the beach. We're going to play miniature golf. And then we have our inputs. We have a tour book for the beach area that we're going to. Of course, figuring out our transportation, our budget, beach gear, luggage, accommodation or reservations, a hotel or condominium or rental house, something along those lines. These are the things we've been talking about as far as logic models and their relationship in helping you to accomplish your project. So if we put all of this together, our logic model will look like this. Rondelle, my problem statement, Rondelle and her granddaughters have been working hard at work and school with little or no breaks and few opportunities to spend time together. The goal is to reconnect and bond with my granddaughters. And here we have the inputs that we just mentioned. We have the activities we just mentioned, of course, our participants. And although we didn't mention on the slide before, some of the outputs would be a photo album. And of course, we'd have our scorecards for miniature golf. And then we have outcomes. And here in this example, I use short-term and medium-term or intermediate outcomes. 3 suntanned people. Of course, some of us will get darker than others. A lot of laughter. Relaxation by everyone, 1 week respite from school and work. We'll learn more about each other because we're spending time together. Happy memories that each of us take away. We'll be rejuvenated and ready to get back into our routine. And we will have achieved the closer bonding that I had wanted to get with my granddaughters, since we don't get to spend that much time together. Now, this is a really simplistic example, but that's how easy a logic model really is. It just helps you to plan something out. You can get more complex and more detailed in your project, but it's really not as scary as it might seem. Before we conclude, we have some tips. Plan right to left. So you're going to start, as we mentioned before, with the problem statement and goals already determined, and then you're going to work outcomes, outputs, inputs when you're developing your logic model. But when you're implementing your logic model, you're going to go the other direction. Inputs, outputs, outcomes. Okay? List all major activities with an action verb to distinguish between activities and products. Don't forget the arrows to visually demonstrate the connection between the different elements of the logic model. All logic model components or elements should be connected to your goal. Okay. We have some resources that we have given you here. The ANA should be coming out with a monitoring and evaluation toolkit in the very near future. When that comes out, there is a section on logic model and on planning and developing projects. So please take check the ANA website periodically. It will get put up in the resources section. As I mentioned before, there are a lot of different things online that you can find, both through a Google search or through YouTube. A couple of the resources that we found, at least as far as software development, is Innonet.org has a logic model, a simplistic logic model builder. DoView.com is a software, a purchase software that allows you to create flowcharts and logic models. It has templates for logic models of various kinds. Visio, which is a Microsoft project, I didn't list it here, but Visio is another software that can be used for developing logic models. The W. Kellogg Foundation has a logic model development guide out there. And actually, Innonet.org has a workbook, a logic model workbook that they also put out. So if you do a Google search, a lot of these things come up. Please keep in mind that you're going to need to look at the funding opportunity or application requirements for a specific funder to determine what the parameters of the logic model are for that particular funder. So what the government asks for or what a different agency asks for varies. What private foundations ask for varies. So just keep that in mind. I think you'll find when you're looking at something like the Kellogg Foundation, they use the word program with everything. But when you look at something that, say, ANA wants, you're not going to see program because ANA doesn't fund programs. ANA funds projects, startups. So there could be some change in terminology. All righty. Well, 15 minutes left for questions, guys. I do want to thank you all for joining us. But we will open it up for questions. We have a question from Maureen Wimsat. I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly, Maureen. I noticed that some people put evaluation at the bottom of their logic models. Do you prefer to put it evaluation at the right-hand side? Why or why not? ANA is still working out the format that they're looking to see. They don't have a specification on the elements, particular elements yet, or where they belong. So when the funding opportunity announcements come out, if it requires a logic model, there will be some information about what they are looking for there. You know, we talked about some of the optional things like assumptions, which are critical in explaining to your funder why you chose a strategy. That usually goes at the bottom as well. At least I have seen them in a lot of the examples that I've seen. That's where they put. But there are formats when they do. None of them are right or wrong.
There is a question with regard to, will participants receive the recording?
Actually, that I was going to talk about that before we ended, but yes, we will. We're not going to send the participants individually a recording. We will be putting the recording up on the ANA website as well as the ANA Eastern website in about 2 weeks. We have to take this recording and make it 508 compliant, so people with disabilities are able to use the recording. But once that is done, it will be available online and you can download from the website. We have a question from Nora Peterson. In your last example, it looks like outputs are measurable indicators of outcomes. Is that right? Well, they're measurable products that are produced by the activities to aid in attaining the outcomes, yes. Last call for questions. I think I've gotten them all. I appreciate everybody's comments. I hope the notes, the handout is helpful for you all. Please feel free to contact us if you have any questions, any other questions. I know sometimes when I'm listening to a presentation, it's after I hang up or maybe the next day that something comes into mind that you would have liked to have asked. So feel free to contact us. You can get our contact information from the ANA website, or you can reach us at ANA Eastern at Miami TEC Solutions, all one word, .com. Yeah, I know. It's a lot. We didn't pick it. Okie doke. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Take care, guys.